Thanks for waiting. Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. All right, Kermode Bear, you can get out of bed now. Sorry, sometimes we have a little bit of internet challenges. So I had to pop over to the wireless today. So we're flying with, you are the wind beneath my wings right now. We're on Wi-Fi. Hope to God that it works. And if it doesn't,
no, God! No,
I don't know what to do.
Please, no!
When the internet says goodbye, it says goodbye.
No!
We appreciate everybody tuning in. The Wake Up America show always is streaming live at the backup location, wakeupamericashow.com. So if for some reason there's ever any technical trouble like we've been having this morning, then you can always watch the Wake Up America show streaming live, hopefully without any problems, at wakeupamericashow.com. Johnny Rankin, Robbie Thurman, Southcott, Frickety. What's up, Bruce? Burt Whistle, Barney Styles, Sign of Jonah, the lovely Cecilia H. She's been supporting us a lot lately. What's up, Cecilia? We got to give you special love because you've been specially loving us. Loving us up. We appreciate everybody joining us live. Thanks for the patience. Going to keep an eye on the internet signal this morning. Looks like it's in the green right now. Should be okay. Hopefully we'll be able to get through it. If you're listening to the audio version of this later, I'll try and chop this all out so you won't even hear this. You won't even know that there was a problem this morning. Bill Maher goes on The View, says Joe Biden is cadaver-like, and he also calls Joy Behar's credibility into question, suggesting she's losing credibility by self-censoring her criticisms of Joe Biden. Bill Maher. You love to see it. You can imagine how they reacted, though.
How dare you?
I've got the clips. It's going to be fun and funny. But I better get through them quick. I've just got an absolutely stellar lineup of guests and content for you today. It's back-to-back, just stellar interviews. We've got Maxim Lott joining us at 7:30 a.m. He is the founder of electionbettingodds.com. Can't wait to talk to Maxim. He's also going to give us a preview of the Libertarian Party's National Convention coming up over Memorial Day, where President Donald Trump will be speaking. Vivek Ramaswamy will be debating their vice presidential candidate on stage. It's great for the LP. Well, from a media perspective, probably bad for them electorally, but I think at this point they don't care. They're just gambling, like Larry Sharpe has said. And of course, Maxim Lott is a former producer for John Stossel over at the Fox Business Network. That's how we know each other. And he's a great resource to talk to about things like this. Can't wait to hear from him. 7:30. We're going to speak to Maximus in about 20 minutes. And at 8 o'clock this morning, well, it's Wednesday. You know what that means. Big brain time. Judge Andrew Napolitano joins the... Oh, you guys are too kind. I know that there's going to be some new people who tune into this show and then they hear me hitting that applause button. And they're like, can. Shut up. It's fun. We like to goof around on the Wake Up America show and have a lot of fun. If you're a regular guest, you already know that. So click that like button if you haven't already. And of course, if it's your first time here and you're not too troubled by all the sound bites.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
Click that follow button before you leave today. And of course, you can see that phone number at the bottom of your screen, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Frickety says, I'm a big John Stossel fan. Great journalist. Sign of Jonah says, love me some Stossel. Yeah, it's kind of funny because now you have all these people who were sort of behind the scenes from some of your favorite stars in libertarianism now are kind of like coming up and becoming the stars themselves. Maxim kind of is that guy. I don't know if I'm that guy for Judge Andrew Napolitano. I would like to think so. But I was behind the scenes there at the time. That's how we were. We were together as producers at Fox Business at the same time when Stossel had Stossel there, and I was producing Freedom Watch with the judge, and we all had a lovely time. At 8:30 this morning, we're going to speak to J.D. Tuccilli from Reason Magazine. He thinks that the presidential debates should be harder. I agree. They should be tougher. They should also have a physical challenge. I think that if you're going to run for president of the United States, rather than do some weird, cryptic, go have a doctor's appointment, the doctor comes out and says, their health status has not changed since last time, like they do with Joe Biden. And it's like, okay, but it hasn't changed since last time, but that just means that he's still suffering from the same ailments that he had last time, right? You know? So we'll hear from JD Tuccilli this morning about what he thinks the presidential candidates should do in the debates and why he thinks that it should be harder. We'll hear from him at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Are you ready? Don't forget, guys, we've got that bonus content to unlock. If you'd like to see today's mini documentary about times that libertarianism has been tried, make sure that you get those Rumble Rant donations or those YouTube donations in Super Chats this morning. And if you, let's see, are we live on YouTube? Sometimes when it gets knocked off. And Rumble's Reconnect server is so much better than YouTube's. So we're going to see if we're going to get reconnected if the YouTube is down. We still stream on YouTube, yes, because I'm greedy and I like money, like Mr. Krabs. You know what I'm saying?
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise. Please.
Can you suck it?
What?
Very funny. Our clips. I saw this wild video of the storms in Iowa. Tornado in Iowa leveled a wind turbine. Check out this freakish storm. Check it out. There's the former wind turbine right there. It just got torn up. You can see the parts of the turbine flying around in the tornado. Look at it going down. Whoa, that's wild. There they go. So you can see it here, covered in the background. Watch the turbine. So the top of it is in the tornado right now. See it getting pulled down. Boom, look at this. Scary. This was last night or yesterday in Iowa. One more time here. Watch this. That wind turbine coming down. Oof. Dangerous storm. There we go. All right. Yes. So like I was saying, don't forget that if we get $60 in either donations or in purchases at apforlibertyshop.com, then we will unlock today's mini documentary. My recommendation, head on over, get yourself a Stars and Stripes backpack. This is an awesome piece of gear. Stars, Stripes, and Storage backpack at apforlibertyshop.com. You can buy one of these and throw a box of Founding Flavors coffee in there. All these products are designed by myself and my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wife, Stephanie. All right. This clip of Bill Maher talking to the ladies of The View just got me all excited.
I'm nervous about saying anything against Biden because I feel, not that I have so much power, and you have some more than I do, obviously, but
I don't know about that.
Are you afraid that you might, influence people who are on the fence?
I think you lose all credibility. I do. I mean, my bond with my audience has always been I don't pull a punch.
Yeah.
My bond with my audience is you're not going to like everything I say, but I'm saying what I really think is true.
Right.
That's.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And look, Biden just presents as old. It's not really fair.
No.
Because he's almost the same age. Trump is almost the same age as him.
I know.
But Trump doesn't present that way. You look at somebody right away, you can kind of just sum them up. I mean, we are not young, but we don't present as old.
Yeah.
Biden does. I saw him yesterday making that speech.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, he's cadaver-like.
But his brain...
Whoa, cadaver-like. Pretty spicy. Thank you to Cecilia and Sign of Jonah. He said... Sign of Jonah, he donated $5 too. He said, John Stossel's a great guest. Thank you, AP. I think maybe there was some confusion, Sign of Jonah. I meant John Stossel's producer, Maxim Lott. Sorry about that if there was any confusion. I could get John Stossel on the show. The only reason I don't is just because he's kind of struggles with live interviews versus taped ones. Because he's always had a speech impediment, and this is very early for him. So and he's getting a little bit up there. So I try and take it easy on those guests and really only use them when it's absolutely necessary for the story. So that's just kind of the reality of the situation as it is. But I love John Stossel too. He's definitely one of the reasons why I'm a libertarian today. But anyways, back to the news here. I really enjoyed Bill Maher going on The View, having this conversation, telling Sunny Hostin to their face what
you used the term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything. And I know that you're...
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected.
Yeah.
So The term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words
and
migrate.
So why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing. Alert to injustice. Who's not for that? But words do migrate. Now, I'll use any term you want.
Okay.
Because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't know, want to call it the super far left? But don't tell me the left
or maybe the super far right. Well, he's talking about the left. Well, then
okay, but we talked about that. I mean, I think we agree about the danger of the super far right, and I can't say it enough. I think they're the bigger threat. But don't tell me that the left hasn't changed. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a joke. But,
Too dark.
Well, maybe it is, but it's true. I mean, if I had any doubt that I was right about the change that's happened in the left, watching people protest for a terrorist organization like Hamas, that straightened me up pretty quick.
Remember last fall when the left were discovering the letter that Osama bin Laden wrote to America about why he did 9/11, and the leftists were kind of like, oh my God, yeah, Osama bin Laden, he's really got a few good points. Oh, and by the way, this is not helping the left. Take a look at this, what I just retweeted here from Christopher Rufo. The pro-Hamas faction is a disaster for the left. The campus protesters, Palestinian Authority, Antifa, and Hamas are 4 out of the 5 least popular institutions in a recent Harvard-Harris poll. Lol. Lol. Favorability of institutions. You can see the U.S. military is up there near the top. Hamas at the absolute bottom. CNN not doing so well, but right around the middle. Black Lives Matter actually comes off better than CNN. The Palestinian Authority, China, Antifa. China is more popular than Antifa. Hamas. Very favorable to unfavorable. U.S. military, police, FB still liking Facebook. You know what the truth is that most people aren't really liking most of anything, because here's 42%, 40 to 41% right there. This is the Harvard Caps Harris poll. Israel more popular than the Supreme Court, Department of Justice, and Fox News. This is, again, a Harvard-Harris poll there. So, so Bill Maher nailing it. Let's continue.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that because I think you're almost a free speech absolutist. You believe totally in the right to say what you believe. But I think a lot of us were disturbed to see terrorist flags being waved on American college campuses and seeing this a generation that some I think genuinely care about the plight of the Palestinians. I think most Americans do. But some who seem to be embracing a terrorist organization over the nation of Israel. What do you make of this moment? What do you think it's a result of? How do we fix it?
Well, I mean, it's just astounding to me that they can't tell the good guys from the bad guys. I mean, just morally. I mean, let me tell you, if you're for Hamas, just live in Gaza for a day. And I'm not talking about while the war is on. I mean, before the war. Trust me, you would go running and screaming and begging to live in Tel Aviv. Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable that he has to actually explain this to people, that you don't know this. But again, when are people learning this in school? As much as I learned about history, and I learned a lot, and about civics and politics and news, you didn't learn a lot about the Middle East when I was in school. But it wasn't as important. 9/11 hadn't happened until I was in college. So I wonder if high school curriculum these days, social studies, is teaching more about the Middle East, obviously, because 9/11 is now part of history. I'd be curious, if you're a young person watching the Wake Up America show now, did you learn about Iraq and Afghanistan and 9/11 in your history classes? I would be curious to hear a little bit more about your curriculum, because obviously mine was different. I graduated in 1999.
A place that has your values. I mean, women have this is a show watched by a lot of women. Women have no rights in this place, and a lot of majority Muslim countries around the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is no equal rights as far as speech, dress, opportunities for education, reproductive rights, freedom from sexual violence, freedom from sexual harassment.
The LGBTQ community as well.
Yes. You that too. but you throw around the term apartheid. There is a gender apartheid in a lot of the world, where women are second-class citizens at best.
Are you at all concerned about the innocent civilians that have been collectively punished and murdered?
The libertarians need to listen to this part.
Well,
children and women, and are you at all concerned about the fact that the International Criminal Court just today issued a subpoena for Bibi Netanyahu?
Well, that's ridiculous, but it's a war.
Why?
It's a war. Because it's a war, and they were attacked, and they're defending themselves. Now, this is a war. Do you think Hamas needs to be destroyed? This is the question.
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
So how can we do that
well,
with a ceasefire?
All right. So Hamas needs to be destroyed because they are a terrorist organization who say openly that they want to commit genocide on the Jewish people, on the state of Israel. That's what from the river to the sea means, okay? And they say it very openly. They said, we did this attack. They've attacked Israel 5 times. They've started 5 wars since they were given that land back. They could have chosen to turn that place into any place they wanted to, and they took a lot of money that they took from the international community, and they spent it on bombs and guns and building tunnels. So if they need to be destroyed, how do we do that? It's a war. I don't know how to do that, and you don't know how to do that. I assume the Israeli... Of course, everybody is, but that's what happens in a war. Here's a way to stop that. Stop attacking Israel.
And stop calling for the annihilation of Israel and all the Jews. They're calling for the annihilation of the Jews. And so you can't really defend that on the other side very easily.
But before we go, I want to say...
No, we're not going anywhere yet.
Okay, but I just want to say one thing, as we were talking in the break.
Yeah.
Joy is a wonderful human being, and she should not be afraid that people are going to attack her because she said the thing about the swastika on the cap. She does not think that as you said to me in the break, you do not think that all the people who are for Trump are Nazis.
No, I don't.
You don't.
I just want them to pay attention to words like vermin and poisoning the blood and the Third Reich. That's all. That's really what I'm asking.
They see Trump as a comedian. They see him as a clown who says crazy things.
They saw Hitler like that.
Right, okay, but that doesn't mean, you can hate Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It is half the country.
I have some in my family. I don't think they're Nazis.
Okay, great.
He probably, good job, Bill. Well done. She probably did not like him calling her out after what she had said to him while they were backstage. Yeah, Whoopi does not look happy, does she? Right, Cecilia? Thanks for sticking with me this morning through some of the technical challenges that we've been facing on the show today. Don't forget, too, that we have got Max and Lot coming up here in a little bit less than 10 minutes. Before we do, I just got a couple of crazy clips that have nothing to do with what we're talking about today, but I just am laughing here at this Jane Fonda.
So I have a question also for you. I think that we have to remove the social license of the fossil fuel industry the way we did for tobacco. I mean, you wouldn't brag about dating a guy who ran tobacco companies, would you? And
yes, because women care about money more than they care about social justice.
The same is true for don't sleep with anybody that's involved. I'm trying to launch a pussy boycott.
That's a new angle. Well, yeah. And we knew that. We know women have done that in the past during the abolition movement, right?
No, Jane Fonda, please don't withhold the P word from us. Oh, my God. Guys, they're threatening to withhold intercourse from us if we contribute to climate change. They're sitting right there contributing to climate change, talking and farting and taking up all this air in the room. They're putting out carbon dioxide. Look, gentlemen, see these two lovely ladies right there up on that stage? They're going to withhold sex from you, gentlemen. Look out.
How dare you?
Oh, no.
God! No, God, please, no!
You got to worry about the guys that...
No!
What do you think? Are you guys worried that they're going to withhold sex from you? I mean, listen, I know I saw yesterday Candace Owens was talking about, she's like, we need to ban pornography. It's terrible for men. It's terrible for women. We're going to need it, guys. Because I think the truth is that we're going to have to withhold ourselves from the ladies. I actually think we need to have a penis boycott. What say you? It's time for us to stop sleeping with these women. will use the pornography to get by for a little bit. I know the social conservatives who are listening, who are tuning in right now, are like, "Whoa, I don't care. I'm not a social conservative. I'm a social libertarian," which means that I think that people who are adults, consenting adults, should be able to do as they please, provided they harm no one else. And I don't see any harm in that. It's different if you're a kid. It's different if it's human trafficking. Okay, guess what? I don't care. I don't care, right? Cigarettes are harmful and they should be legal, right? If you use chewing tobacco or Zyn, like Tucker said, Zyn is no sin, that's harmful to you, okay? That's your business. You're an adult, okay? But gentlemen, we're going to need it because it's time for us to take a step back. It's time for us to say no more. It's time for a penis boycott of all liberal women. Withhold thyself, thy seed from thee, O woman. Depart from me, thy Jezebels, thy Delilahs. Shall not cut my hair. I am Samson. Tear down the walls of the temple. We'll be right back with Max and Lott on the Wake Up America Show. It's getting weird. At wakeupAmericashow.com.
The Cantina crew, this is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America Show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against.
And what is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Out of my pocket and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America Show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson, and glad and thankful to have you here. It's time to rise and freedom. Click that like button if you haven't already. And if it's your first time watching the show and you end up enjoying today's content, hit that follow button as well. We'd love to have you come back and join us. The show's schedule is Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a 2-hour Freedom Fest, 5 days a week. The documentary for today follows the theme of times that real libertarianism has been tried throughout history. The mini documentary we produced yesterday was a big hit where we talked about medieval Iceland and their system of government. And today's system of government, I think you're going to like as well. But to find out what it is, you got to get those Rumble Rant donations in or head over to apforlibertyshop.com. Every purchase that you make during the show today goes to qualify to unlock today's mini documentary. I know you loved Mondays. We talked about Milton Friedman and the Chicago Boys going down to Chile and Augusto Pinochet. What could today's be? Well, it's a mystery. And if we don't unlock it, it goes away forever. Hey, don't boo me. I've seen what makes you cheer. It's like Libertarian Party conventions where I get booed for saying that you shouldn't sell heroin to 5-year-olds. We're going to talk about the LP convention, but first let's talk about the race that really matters. Let's handicap the race between Joe Biden and Tom? Maxim Lott. Good morning, Maxim. Nice to see you, sir.
Hey, great to see you too, Austin.
Thanks for joining us here. So, electionbettingodds.com. People from all over the world, not here in the U.S., except where it might be legal. Is it legal to bet on the election at all anywhere in the U.S.?
For now, it is. There's a site called predictit.com. They got grandfathered in. The government's trying to shut them down now. Actually, this is a very active thing. The government just announced 2 weeks ago, the Biden administration, they're going to kind of formally ban betting on elections in the U.S. It's been a gray area for a while. So it might not be legal for long, but for now it is. And also they're always going to be betting on it in the UK and overseas in various places.
Got it. So people are betting their own money on elections. And when they do that, you take the data and you collate it over at electionbettingodds.com to find out how things are looking in the race between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So how are they looking?
Yeah, well, Trump has been gaining in the odds. So he's at 52% now. So it's still very close. This could go either way. But if you look at the trends, it's been very positive for Trump in the last couple of weeks. This is going to go Trump's way. Like in the New York Times said, Nevada, Trump was up 13, and he was winning in every swing state except Michigan. So a lot of these are close. If you get the wrong combination of states, it could go for Biden, but it's looking pretty good for Trump.
Okay, so what do you think is contributing to this, Maxim? Because the Democrats keep telling us the economy's great, inflation is down, the stock market is booming, and that is definitely a factor. But there's got to be some factors that we can look at and say there's a reason why Biden has fallen behind so much. If the economic factors are, as the Democrats say, what's your take on it?
Yeah, the economy is kind of a complicated thing because the stock market's doing really well. So if you're heavily invested in stocks, you're doing well. But if you're not, if you're working a lower wage job and you don't have investments, the cost of living rising is really hitting you. So you can graph it out, and net worth of those households has fallen, inflation and wages not keeping up. So that's a big thing. The Trump being stuck in court because of this honestly politically motivated prosecution seems like people aren't buying the official narrative on that. Trump's fundraising for the first quarter, it beat Biden's, and it's clearly because he's been stuck in court, and people see that and they're like, this is not fair. So there are a couple trends like that.
I saw that that they did some interviews with members of the Black community who were saying things like, we see the way that Donald Trump is being treated by the criminal justice system as a metaphor for how we get treated for the criminal justice system. And the week after that report came out, he backed off of his plan to ban menthol cigarettes. And I heard today now he's announced some other $1 billion student loan package giveaway. So he's doing everything he can, throwing everything he can, including the kitchen sink at it to try and stay elected. But one of the things on your website here, Maxim, and I have it pulled up, more than Kamala Harris. What's happening here, Maxim?
Yeah. Well, I personally don't buy it, but the logic here is that Biden's poll numbers will be so bad at the convention, and maybe he'll have actually, it wasn't my time. I won the votes, but I'm backing down, and Michelle Obama into it, which I don't think they could. But if they said the country depends on you, you just got to be our figurehead or something, she would be the best polling candidate I suspect they could run. So that's the logic.
Talk to us about the RFK factor. How much of a factor do you think that he really is in this race?
It's really interesting. He seems to be pulling exactly evenly from Trump and Biden. So you look at the polls, it doesn't matter if they include him or not, because he pulls evenly. So that's kind of unusual. It's interesting. We'll see if that changes. I see, MAGA influencers really attacking him full-throatedly recently. The Democrats are doing the same thing, getting the Kennedy family, his younger son, from the other guy's side.
Yeah, it's fascinating because at first Donald Trump was saying good things about RFK when it appeared like he took more from Biden, but now that more of the polling is showing that he steals from both camps, the Trump people have launched the attacks like you're talking about here, which is kind of a fascinating phenomenon. I guess the question really is, can he get on the ballot in enough states? He picked up a strong VP in terms of finances, so she's going to be able to spend a lot of money to get him on the ballot, but it's more than even just money. It's a lot of ground game and coordination. It's a difficult thing to get on the ballot, as we know sort of from our friends in third-party circles, and we're going to talk about the LP in just a moment. But we're looking at a scenario now, Maxim, and maybe this is a good way to transition to what's happening with the LP. We're looking at a scenario now where for the first time, how much Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is sort of playing in Ross Perot territory, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And you were talking about whether RFK can get on enough ballots. I suspect he probably will, partly because, it's VP with the money and all this. And he does have, double-digit support occasionally. So, I think he can get on. One thing I'm looking at is whether Cornel West will get on any swing state ballots. And that's unclear. But if he's on the ballot in Michigan and Pennsylvania following that, and he has a very cash-strapped campaign, I suspect that MAGA people would be better off donating to his campaign than to Trump.
Yeah, that was going to be my next point, is that if you're a big Donald Trump supporter and you really want it for the 2024 election, where the outcome of it will matter. And that's probably the reason why Donald Trump, McCardle, a couple of weeks ago, about the ploy, and she admitted it's a media ploy. They were really struggling to try and get any attention this year. The Libertarian Party's changed a lot since 2016 when I ran, and maybe when you were paying attention to what Gary Johnson takes a lot of votes from the Libertarian Party by speaking at that convention. Are they more amenable to him now than they might have been back in 2016 when they were?
Yeah, it's kind of new territory for the party. Obviously, the Mises Caucus of kind of very, relatively radical, kind of pro, a little bit more to the nationalist side of things, more Republican friendly, was my sense, took over a couple years ago. And I sort of thought there was some speculation, maybe we won't run hard in swing states, this kind of thing. So that's pretty different than the Libertarian Party, and it was never talking that way before. So I'm curious how it shakes out. I know the party invited Biden. They invited, I think RFK is speaking there too. So I think the convention matters less than maybe, it doesn't matter that much. I think people, so I think he will pull libertarian voters regardless of whether he's speaking at the convention.
Well, then there's the question about their own presidential candidate, which they're set to select. I mean, I think if I were running and them are saying things like, oh, this is good for us, it's going to get us attention, it's going to get us media, but it is a bit of a sign of desperation to some extent to make this kind of a move, is it not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, any of the names that have been floated for the Libertarian presidential pick have, as far as I can tell, basically zero public name recognition. They don't have a former congressman or former governor. I think almost no one's heard of them.
Yeah.
Do you have any suspicion about who will actually get the nomination?
Well, the Mises Caucus, which is the predominant faction in the party, has promoted two candidates for president, and they really like him a lot. And then there is the podcaster Clint Russell, which he goes by the handle Liberty Lock Pod, which is who they want for VPs. So just for the simple fact that the party has gotten so small now and that they're the dominant faction, it appears as if those will be the two candidates right now. And so at the moment, the party, you're right, doesn't have anybody with any kind of national name ID or, media experience whatsoever. They seem to be just wanting to nominate really hardcore ideologues regardless of what the national appeal is. I mean, it just kind of seems as if the strategy is, we know we're going to lose. Let's just nominate a couple of guys who are, ideologically aligned with our faction, and then probably vote for Trump. I mean, that's probably what's going to happen, Maxim. I mean, the liberty movement has kind of shrunk to the size of a teapot. I mean, and now we're sort of looking at this situation where the movement is small, like itself is bigger, but the party itself has really shrunk. The American people don't really seem interested in limited government at this point. Maxim, and tell me if you're getting this vibe as well. The American people, for a brief period, seemed interested in our ideas during the Tea Party years. 2010 to 2016 to 18ish. There was about an 8 to 10 year period where it seemed like the American people really were taxed enough already, right? And there was interest in limited government ideals and free trade and cutting taxes and cutting spending. Now it just seems like the American people are interested in using government to punish their enemies. Is that an accurate and fair assessment in your mind?
Attacked on both sides. They feel like they're at war essentially with the other half of the country. And when you feel like that, you're not worried about whether the tax rate's at 35% or 31%. You're just like, gotta, keep my guy out of jail from his opponents, or gotta save democracy, as many people think. So it takes you out of the, should we have more or less FDA regulation, space, which was a healthier place to be in, which is where we were maybe 10 years ago.
So if that's the case, then do you think it really makes sense to have a libertarian party to some extent? Because there are some negative connotations to it and whenever someone says, oh, you're a libertarian, they think that I mean a member of the party. When I'm trying to explain someone what it means to be a limited government, I don't want to have to be like, well, that guy that says that that Benjamin Netanyahu is a Nazi and that all the Jews are responsible for the central banking thing. I don't want to be responsible for that guy's opinions, right? If that's going to be like the message of the LP this year, is it like, the Jewish banking conspiracy is why the military industrial complex is killing people in the Middle East? It might just be better if they were just kind of like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid question. I think the case can be made that third parties in general don't make a whole lot of sense given how the U.S. election system is set up. If states passed ranked choice voting, which Maine and Alaska have, then they would make sense because you can vote for libertarian and then for your next favorite. But right now, a third party pulls from whoever candidate is closest to them. So maybe an RFK, that's no one, it's equal. But because he's had both left-wing and now coded as right-wing views. But in general, I'm not sure third parties make a ton of sense in our system.
Maxim, is there anything else that you're working on these days? What else are you working on these days? I know you've got an AI project, a tracker that you're following, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about that before we let you go.
Yeah, I have a website, trackingai.org, and it tracks AI bias. It gives them a political quiz every day. Surprisingly, the most balanced AI right now is Facebook's open source Llama. And all the others, even Elon Musk's, they give you pretty liberal answers on the whole. So I'll be interested to see if that changes. But AI is going to revolutionize things faster than people think. It's already coming to our phones as a voice assistant. It's pretty good.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm surprised to hear that Grok, that Elon Musk's AI is also to the left. What Llama is? Which one is Llama? Who owns Llama?
Yeah, it's Facebook's, and it's open source, so anyone can. Yeah, so it's surprising. Who knows how these things shake out, but somehow they've the least leftist AI for now.
Well, yeah, for now, until until somebody uses it for some nefarious right-wing purpose and they have to clamp down on it. Actually, this morning, so I use AI for almost everything that I do for this show in order to build my mini documentaries, in order to build the cards that I use for the show, the thumbnails, and about 3 months ago, the AI generator that I use, Midjourney, for my images, banned all image creations of Joe Biden and Donald Trump. which is just it's aimed directly at someone like me because I need images of Donald Trump and Joe Biden to do my job, political commentary. So I was like the target of the type of people. They don't want people like me. So I actually had to go and use the neo-Nazi site Gab.
No, Gab.
I had to go to Gab's image generator this morning so I could generate an image of Joe Biden looking like a corpse for the thumbnail, because no one else would do it. So hopefully one day we'll have a place where we can have free speech, but I don't have to hang out with the National Socialist Workers Party. So, Maxim, anything else that you want to share with our listeners before we let you go today?
I think that's most of it. It's really interesting to follow the betting odds and polls here. Like in Arizona, Trump was up 5 according to a CBS poll. And in that same poll, the Democratic Senate candidate was up 13. So it just shows you it's not like they're just oversampling Republicans or middle-aged people or something. No, Trump, there's something going on. One other interesting poll, Hamas, Harvard did a poll, and Hamas and campus protesters, the country hates them, basically. They're down there with communist China, with Antifa. MAGA Republicans have a much higher rating among the general public. So that might be another thing that's hurting Biden, just the optics of these campus crazies out there.
I happened to be talking about that earlier. I hope I have it pulled up right now. MAGA Republicans higher than Hamas, Antifa, and campus protesters. And MSNBC. So very funny. Maxim Lott, where can people find your work online?
Yeah, Twitter, it's at Maxim Lott. Also got a Substack, Maximum Truth.
There you go. Follow his Substack, Maximum Truth. Maxim Lott, he's an old school freedom fighter since way back in the day. We appreciate you very much, Maxim. Thanks for being so generous with your time today. We look forward to hopefully having you back again on real soon to break down the election. Keep up the good work out there.
Anytime. Thanks, Austin.
Thanks so much. Let's give Maxim a round of applause. Is the internet starting to stabilize a little bit? I know you guys have been struggling today, and I'm sorry for that. There's not a lot I can do when the literal wired internet connection is plugged in and we've got like supposed to 500 megabits down and then nothing up. There's just nothing I can do about it. Sorry, guys.
Oh, God! No, God, please, no!
Boo me, boo MediaCom. No! But I did make a couple of tweaks in order to try and stabilize it this morning, and it looks like it is starting to stabilize. So if you guys are seeing that it's starting to get a little bit better, just give me some applause in the chat, or just let me know. You can say Sign of Jonah saying it is now. Brandon says it's working much better. I had to lower the bit rate of what I'm pushing, which means that it's a little bit lower quality in terms of video. But hopefully what you're seeing is a little bit better. If it still messes up again a little bit more, I'm going to start taking away some of the graphics on the outside of the screen. Wouldn't it be nice to have a producer on the show? Doing all this stuff on the fly and then doing interviews and all this kind of stuff. It's just, good God, guys. It's stressful. Look, we should hire a producer, guys. What do you guys say? You guys want to build this thing out, huh? You want to get a Wake Up America show team, a crew? Right now, I've got a marketing guy part-time. I want to take him full-time. I want to hire a producer. So how can you help? Well, you can help yourself by unlocking today's bonus content. Get those Rumble Rant donations in now and unlock today's bonus content. Help support the future of the Wake Up America show and of the content that we produce around here. I am just busting my tail off over here day and night, trying to not only produce content here for you. I'm writing 2 or 3 op-eds a week. I'm producing shorts and the audio version of the show and running all the shop stuff with my wife and our part-time employee. And we're just running around like crazy. And soon I'm going to have a little baby and it's going to get crazy. Okay, so help support the show, help support our family, help support to grow the message of freedom in the future. Get those Rumble Rant donations in or those YouTube super chats now, or head on over to apforlibertyshop.com. So that's AP, the number 4, apforlibertyshop.com. Check out our awesome, beautiful backpack, stars, stripes, and storage. You definitely want to show up to the 4th of July party with this backpack full of fireworks. Head on over to apforlibertyshop.com. Our Call the Cops, I Don't Give a shirt has really been flying off the shelves lately. Look at this total Chad right here. Call the cops. I don't give a shirt. If you head over to apforlibertyshop.com and get an I don't give a shirt, then you will have beautiful, bodacious babes just like that one right there. And maybe you're into the spooky chicks as well. There you go. Dad Bod Baboon says, you guys do a great job. So glad I found this show. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Again, head on over to apforlibertyshop.com. Look at this beautiful Calvin Coolidge stained glass cutting board. Imagine people coming over to your house for a barbecue this summer, and you've got not only are you chopping up the meat with your Calvin Coolidge cutting board, but you give them a glass, give them a shot of whiskey with the beautiful George Washington stained glass shot glass, Thomas Jefferson stained glass, George Washington stained glass. Grab the whole set. If you're into wine, you can get it in a wine glass at apforlibertyshop.com. The Founding Fathers Stained Glass Collection, all created by my loving wife, Stephanie. She is just a joy, isn't she? Look at this one. Stained glass George Washington cutting board. You can get those exclusively. See, we make these, guys. You don't find these anywhere else. Nobody else has this design. Other than apforlibertyshop.com. Okay, Cecilia says, I want to be a producer with a hit show on Broadway. Yes, you were doing well with that one, but I know it also helped ease the headaches when running the show. Yes, exactly. And the hope is that the producer will not just run the show, but he's also going to do a lot of the administrative content for me, taking on creating the bonus content on the daily, creating a lot of the shorts on the daily, cutting the clips. We really should be cutting these interviews and making nice productions of them and getting them up on the socials so that people can see these interviews, because a lot of people won't watch a 2-hour stream, but they will watch a 15 to 20 minute interview. You know what I mean? But I'm just running at max capacity right here at this point. So the hope is that we grow this show and we start to get to where we have the budget to start bringing people in so that we can get more of that administrative production done so that I can focus more on the high level tasks. I've got a documentary that I'm working on. I need to get that out this year. And I'm going to have a child, and there's going to be a lot of busy stuff. So need some help around the Peterson household. Head on over to apforlibertyshop.com, unlock that bonus content. All right, we're going to go get Judge Napolitano to talk about Trump's legal storm clouds might be breaking. The sun is shining over the horizon. So let's wake up, America. What say you? We'll be right back with Judge Nap. It's Wednesday, big brain time on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America Show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupamericashow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America Show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupamericashow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great. Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Peterson. It's time to rise and freedom. Thanks so much for joining us. If you're here with us live right now, not just listening to the audio version later, but if you are on the go and you don't have time to listen to the live show in the mornings, make sure you download the audio version of the podcast on either iTunes or anywhere you get your podcasts from. The Wake Up America show uploads each episode of our show. And if you do have iTunes and you can open up your mobile phone now, about things that aren't really that serious. We talk about cultural issues. Sometimes we talk about the war of the sexes, relationship drama and battles, especially when my wife Stephanie comes on the show on Friday. We like to goof around a little bit, but there are times when serious matters call for serious minds. And every Wednesday, the Wake Up America show has what we call Big Brain Time, and we put on the schedule at 8 a.m. Central the biggest brain there is, the biggest influence on my brain, the person who led me to many of the conclusions that I stand for today. If you love freedom, if you love the Constitution, if you love liberty, there are very few people out there who are as prominent fighting for what you and I stand for than Judge Andrew Napolitano, the host of the Judging Freedom podcast. He's joining us live right now. Good morning, Judge.
Well, good morning, Austin. Thank you for the over-the-top introduction. I sometimes wish, because I feel so connected to your audience, that they could be in a large room physically with us, and we could touch them and shake their hands and interact with them. But we're doing the next best thing.
For sure, Judge, and I'm grateful to have you here. And of course, you being so generous with your time, especially because you have a hit show with a massive multi-million audience that you would grace us with your presence. We are very grateful for. We'll look forward to hearing a little bit more about your upcoming guests on your show, as well as a sneak preview of your column. If you want to hear that, make sure you stick around to the end of the interview. Judge, when I read the news on the Wall Street Journal about Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, stealing tens of thousands of dollars from Donald Trump, it really made me question the veracity of the claims being made against him in the Stormy Daniels case. What about you?
Well, I mean, the question is, can liars tell the truth? And sometimes they do. I mean, the government can't really pick its witnesses, and often the government's witnesses, the government and prosecutors really deal with the underbelly of society. Often the government's witnesses have more baggage than the people the government is prosecuting. In fairness to Trump, Cohen is utterly unworthy of belief, and the judge will tell the jury, if you believe that any witness lied to you in any matter, you are free to reject everything else the witness says. That's the so-called false in one, false in all charge. They will get that charge. On the other hand, the allegations against Trump made by Cohen are backed up by documents. And his testimony in that respect is consistent with the documents. Did he lie, steal, cheat, lie under oath? Yes, he did. So it really cuts both ways. I can see defense counsel coming in on Monday or Tuesday. Monday's the holiday, when they do their closing arguments, and have a list on the flat screen of every misbehavior, every bad deed to which Michael Cohen has admitted under oath, and then say, would you trust the freedom of your children in this man's hands? They, and I go right over and point at the government, they want you to trust the freedom of the former president in this man's hands. So those are very powerful arguments. On the other hand, the government will say documents don't lie. We didn't prepare them. Cohen didn't prepare them. The Trump organization prepared them. And here's the trail of the cash. Trump organization, Donald Trump, Michael Cohen's trust account, phony corporation, the trust account of the lawyer of Missouri, Stormy Daniels, all this to avoid telling the Federal Election Commission that a corporation paid a campaign debt. So those are the two arguments in a nutshell.
Do you think that Trump was wise not to testify in this case?
Yes, I think it would have been a disaster if he had testified. If you are a witness, let's say you're a witness to an automobile accident, was the light red or was it green? And you testify, yeah, when I was there, the light was red. And then they cross-examine you. That's all they can ask you about is the scope of your direct testimony, unless you're the defendant in the case. Then they can ask you about anything, even things that have nothing to do with this case that would affect your credibility. Trump would have been on the witness stand for a week under oath trying to answer questions about every lie and exaggeration he's ever offered. And according to the New York Times, it's about 42,000 of them that have been documented by these anti-Trump groups. I mean, if I were Todd Blanche, if I were Trump's chief lawyer and he said, I'm testifying, I would have said, let's go have breakfast. And I would have slipped something into his breakfast to make him sick to his stomach so he couldn't come in the courtroom. That's how catastrophic to the case his testimony would have been.
Judge, can you give us a war game for us for just a moment? Best case, worst case scenario for Trump in this specific trial?
Well, the best case scenario is that he is acquitted, not a hung jury, but an actual acquittal. The worst case scenario is that he's is convicted and sentenced to incarceration. I mean, that's almost inconceivable to me because he has no priors and this is not a crime of violence. So even though it provides for 4 years in jail, the checklist, and it's literally a checklist that judges have to go through before they sentence, has swings decidedly in favor of no incarceration. I mean, and what happens to him? Joe Biden gets to call him a convicted felon. The public still doesn't understand what he did wrong. You know, this is not an assault or a bank robbery. When you watch it, you know that something wrong is going on. This is a very arcane, white-collar crime that you can look at it and not even know that a crime is being committed. Mar-a-Lago is easier to prove. January 6th in Georgia have First Amendment defenses, but this is very, very abstruse. A judge is going to have, in my view, a challenge to explain this to the jury so that they can understand it.
Do you think that these, on the political side of things, Judge, do you think that cases like this are actually helping Trump's electoral chances this fall?
Apparently, they are, according to the polls. But I don't know where this ends. For example, in New York State court, you can stand in the hallways and make political statements. And every time he walked in the courtroom and every time he left, he had a mini presser basically saying things that neither he nor his lawyer would have been permitted to say in the courtroom. In federal court, none of that can happen. So if one of these federal trials starts, he will really, really be hamstrung. If neither of them starts before Election Day, then I think he says, look, they prosecuted me, but they're really prosecuting you. I did this for you. This is what the Democrats do. And he'll make the most of it.
I can't imagine what kind of pressure Trump is under. I mean, just from the fact he's running for president of the United States while fighting multiple charges. I mean, even you, Judge, you think that many of these cases that are being brought against him are spurious. Would you call this lawfare? I know that some of these charges that are against him in some of these cases you don't think are spurious, but do you think that this is really just overall now part of the left's playbook? That they're going to now use lawfare to try and take down anyone that they deem as a threat? I mean, because there's enough laws in the books, Judge. I mean, you say this all the time, that the more numerous the law, the more corrupt a state, the more it legislates. We're all in violation of a law at any time. How many felonies does everybody commit a day? 2 or 3?
Right. I basically agree with everything you just said. But there's two sides of me. I mean, there's the side of me that says government's only legitimate function is the protection of natural rights. On the other hand, when I was on the bench and took an oath to uphold the laws, whether I agreed with them or not, that side of me tells me that there is a basis here for all of these prosecutions. So under our perverse system, as we inherited it from the framers, there's a basis for all these prosecutions. But under a system based on natural law and natural rights, under a system based on limited government, under a system based on Madison's interpretation of the Constitution as he articulated in the Bank speech, there is no basis for these laws and no basis for these prosecutions. It's none of the government's business.
Judge, do you believe personally, and this is a question that came in from our viewer, Joni Rankin. She's a regular, absolutely loves you, wants you to come to Jefferson City. She asked this question. She says, do you believe that it is, 1, a crime to pay hush money, and 2, a crime to pay hush money to try and influence the election? In your personal view, whether it's a crime or not under U.S. statutes is another matter. But do you think it should be a crime to pay hush money or to try and use it to influence an election?
All right. So hush money is not a crime. Hush money is the settlement of a dispute between two people. So that my opinion of it is moot. It's not a crime and it shouldn't be a crime. It's a voluntary commercial transaction. In terms of whether it should be an election law violation, you should be able to spend your money however you want in an election. So it shouldn't be an election law violation. There shouldn't be election laws. There shouldn't be this kind of regulation that the government establishes with teams of regulators. Justice Scalia famously said, this federal election law is so complicated, I can't understand it. This is one of the smartest people in the modern era in terms of interpreting statutes, and he couldn't understand it. Congress often writes legislation that it doesn't even read. It's just told, oh, this is the way the party is going. This is the way we're going on this. We have to have this because the speaker promised it, the majority leader promised it, needs it, whatever the case may be. Ron Paul famously informed that the House of Representatives was given 15 minutes to read the Patriot Act. Now, it's 115 pages long, and it amends so many other prior statutes that in order to read it effectively, you have to have all the statutes in front of you that it amends. you were listening to probably the only person on the planet who's done this exercise twice, because it takes about 20 hours each time you do it. Do you think members of Congress read it before they voted on it? Of course not.
Judge, on to electoral politics here. Donald Trump is slated to speak at the Libertarian Party's National Convention over Memorial Day. The young Vivek Ramaswamy will debate their vice presidential candidate as well. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been invited. I know that you do not vote for major party, or let's call them uniparty candidates for president of the United States. And I know Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is out, which is, you said on our show. And I know that you said, you'll vote for the Libertarian Party candidate, but we're looking at a situation this year electorally where the Libertarian Party will likely come in fourth place for the first time since 1992. In your mind, what do you think has happened to the Libertarian Party? Is it internal strife that you think has led to this? Do we blame the American people for a lack of interest in liberty? I would be curious to hear your take, knowing that you and I have come out of the Tea Party years where the American people were very interested in the ideas of limited government and free trade and cutting taxes and spending. And now it seems as if the American people have moved on. How do you feel about the state of the 2024 elections, looking at the options that we have, knowing that you won't be voting for the major party candidates, but that the candidate that you likely will vote for will be the weakest Libertarian Party candidate again since the early 90s?
Yeah. It's I haven't really analyzed this to my own satisfaction, Austin. So I don't know if the Libertarian Party has been infected by big government people who tend to water it down. I mean, what is Donald Trump doing at a Libertarian Party convention? Trump's been my friend for years, but he's not a libertarian. He's an authoritarian. And Vivek Ramaswamy is a crackpot. And Bobby Kennedy is libertarian on certain matters like surveillance and Julian Assange and Edward Snowden and vaccines, but he's out of his mind on other topics like Israel and reparations. So I don't know if they're doing this just to get free media coverage, but they don't really stand for anything. And they don't have somebody like Ron Paul anymore. They don't have a standard bearer who's utterly unbending and unwilling to compromise or water anything down. This could be you in a generation or even in 4 or 8 years, but it would have to be somebody of that mentality, attractive, instructive, and unbending. So I would say, well, what do they stand for if they're having Trump, Ramaswamy, and Bobby there? Now, these people, not Ramaswamy, but the other two are friends of mine, but they're not libertarians. They don't belong there.
I've been told that I'm not a libertarian, Judge, and I find it fascinating, that the way that the liberty movement has so fractured and factionalized, because we operate now. The liberty movement operates now very much on a sort of a cult mentality. We have our high popes, our priests, and our factions. For example, and we operate very much on a purge mentality. For example, Walter Block Professor Block is now a heretic because of his foreign policy views on the conflict between Israel and Gaza. And he has been excommunicated officially from not only the Mises Institute, but many say from the libertarian movement entirely. I don't know many people who are more libertarian than Dr. Walter Block. There are issues that I disagree with objectivists on, you and I, for example, but they're a part of this movement. We have so fractured one another, and we have in many ways been the arbiters of our own demise because of our unwillingness to allow for a more honestly, it's fascinating to me because with the sort of the open borders, open-minded, free speech kind of views, tolerant views that we have, we're very intolerant towards one another. Have you noticed?
Yeah, nicely put. I used to say that wherever I go, no matter who's in the audience, I am always the most libertarian person there, except when Walter Block is in the room. I mean, nobody Block's out of his mind on Israel, but he's also one of the smartest people I know, and one of the best explainers of libertarian theory, and one of the fiercest libertarians I know. To excommunicate Walter is crazy.
Judge, I
On
find him
the other
very
hand, I know
convincing.
some very fine people that have been excommunicated from the Mises Institute. Those things just happen. The people that hate us have managed to infiltrate us and water us down.
Judge, I tell you this, I mean, you're right. I mean, there does need to be some semblance of gatekeeping, but I'll tell you, I find Walter Block's arguments, many of them, quite convincing.
Oh,
And
yes.
I'll tell you why I find them to be convincing, Judge. It's because, having been in this movement now and fought for these principles for 20 years now, I have not been able to hear libertarians articulate a single theory of self-defense that allows for a not even just a national defense that I think would be appropriate in an age where nuclear proliferation exists and there are sincere threats to national security from international terrorism. Those are bigger questions, but even a basic self-defense stance, I have not been able to find a coherent individual self-defense stance, because after picking at people's views and interviewing people and asking them, well, how can we, if the non-aggression principle applies, how can we do this? And the objectivists, it seems, get a few things right. The anarchists get a few things right. The minarchists. I mean, and I know, Judge, you yourself, you find yourself in conflict with the principles of anarchism and also minarchism, where we revere the Constitution and the founders' original intent while seeing that it has been perverted. And Thomas Jefferson, it's like when they get power, we know that power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. But I find there to be something inspiring and correct in the handling of the Barbary Wars between Jefferson and Washington, and the prevention of the impression of American merchant seamen enslaved into the British Army. I mean, and when it comes to a defensive concept, it seems as if the libertarian movement lends itself towards a pacifism that I just don't identify with. How can we have a self-defense? How can we have a national defense that actually would protect our interests, noting that with a non-aggression principle that, to me, I believe, lends itself towards tying our hands behind our back and an inability to defend ourselves? If war comes to our doorstep, Judge, everything has to be done to win that war. But when it's like the rules of engagement, for example, in Vietnam, a primary example of why we lost eventually that war, because rules of engagement prevented us from doing what was necessary to actually win it. Of course, there was the hearts and minds struggle here in the United States, but there's something deeply disturbing about the libertarian notion of defense, which to me lends itself more to Quakerism and pacifism than a true "don't tread on me" approach, or else. Can you kind of understand where I see these conflicts?
Well, I share your dilemma. Listen, I'm not in favor of a standing military. I would sell the Pentagon, because I think a standing military is very, very dangerous. If we didn't have a standing military, we wouldn't have fought in Afghanistan, and we wouldn't have fought in Vietnam, and we deserved to lose in Vietnam. And I say that having lost guys I went to high school with, who were drafted and never came home. The only reason we fought that war is because LBJ thought he could be another FDR by running for re-election while being commander-in-chief in a war. But it turned out to be so unpopular, and eventually people saw through it, and the Pentagon Papers revealed the whole thing was based on lies. Listen, I believe in an absolute right to defense. I remember you arguing with Gary Schreier, who was our he'll get a kick out of the fact that I mentioned his name, who was our executive producer. Can you have a tank in your driveway? Of course, you and I said yes, and he went crazy. Don't say that on air. Don't say it on air. Roger Ailes is going to make me bleep it out. I don't know if I said it on air or not. But the point is, the government exists by virtue of our consent. The government can't do anything that we haven't consented to. And if we consent to the government owning a tank, then we can own a tank. Otherwise, the government becomes the master rather than the servant. So self-defense serves two purposes. One is to protect you from creeps and crawlers that would invade your property, domestic or foreign. The other is to protect you from the government itself,
How can
which
you
is what
protect?
Madison and Jefferson understood.
How can you protect yourself from an invading army that has initiated the conflict against you without the potential for collateral damage, Judge?
Well, there's no way to do it without the potential for collateral damage. Collateral damage is licit as long as it's truly collateral. If you're dropping a 2,000-pound bomb on a refugee camp of 300 people in order to kill one, that's not collateral damage, that's murder. But if you're shooting at the one and you inadvertently shoot an old lady standing next to the one, that's collateral damage. That's a mistake. I'm speaking, of course, of real life instances in the Gaza Strip. Am I opposed to a military? No, I'm opposed to a standing military. I'm in favor of militias, and I'm in favor of readiness. And I have some pretty good company on my side by the names of Madison and Jefferson.
The ones who created the Navy. So
Correct.
a Navy is constitutional and would not qualify as part and parcel of a standing army?
Well, the Navy's constitutional because it's mentioned in the Constitution. And it doesn't pose the threats that a standing army does because it's off shore. However, the Navy today from a ship off the coast of New Jersey could probably hit Denver.
God, Judge, I want to talk about these things. We got to find a venue and get together and bring in a crowd and talk about these things. And I'll play devil.
You began this by saying that your audience would like me to come to Jefferson City. We can do it in Jefferson City or Washington, D.C. or New York or wherever you want to do it.
We should probably do it where we have a chance at a crowd. It's very rural out here, and I know my friends locally here are going to be mad that I said this, but we'll all get plane tickets and we'll go to Washington, D.C., and we'll find a nice venue out there, and we'll bring in a crowd, Judge, and I'll play devil's advocate, and you can play the real libertarian, and I think people will
if we
enjoy
go
it.
to Washington, D.C., I'll even get some lefties to join us who happen to agree with us on just about everything except the redistribution of wealth. Some Bernie Sanders types that have become my fans.
Great. Just what I need, Judge. All right, Judge. Hey, tell us about who you have coming up on your excellent show, Judging Freedom.
Oh, I have one of the biggest brains and brightest minds you could ever want to have a conversation with, and that's the great Professor John Mearsheimer of the University of Chicago, who's going to explain how Israel is its own worst enemy. And he'll be talking about that at either 2 or 3 o'clock this afternoon. My apologies. The time is almost irrelevant these days because everybody watches all these things when they're streaming. John Mearsheimer at 2, Phil Giraldi at 3. Phil Giraldi is the 40-year CIA veteran who told George Bush Saddam Hussein does not have weapons of mass destruction. Bush threw him out of the office and Giraldi quit and went on national television. He comes on with me. Mainstream media would never put him on. He comes on with me once a week to talk about what is the CIA up to next. Excuse me. And then one of these young lefties that's a big fan of mine that I was talking about, Aaron Maté, journalist, Canadian-American, lives in Brooklyn, New York, with his wife and children. Brilliant, gifted, expert on Israel and on Ukraine. He's on with me at 4 o'clock today.
You can also read your excellent column every Thursday at judgenap.com. I highly recommend it and endorse it. Judge, love these conversations. It's just so refreshing to have someone that I can bounce these ideas off of. And actually, it made me feel really good to hear you say those things about Walter Block as well, because I'm quite disturbed at the treatment towards him in the last few weeks. Thank you for your time today.
You know, Block defends himself with such ferocity that it sometimes turns people off. I know he's Jewish, but if once in a while he just turned the other cheek, he'd find his audiences were bigger. But I love him. Love him.
Judge, love you too, Judge. And thank you for your time today. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Happy Memorial Day weekend. Even though all those veterans and all those graves died in useless, fruitless, immoral wars. I pray for their souls.
Judge Knapp, the true libertarian, true North libertarian. Have a wonderful week. Thank you, Judge. It's Judge Andrew Napolitano. Let's give him a round of applause. Okay, we have hit the $60 goal thanks to Frickety. The unlock has begun. Cecilia as well. I would join, she says, but she hates DC. If you build it, we will come, and we're going to come.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm going to come.
You've unlocked today's mini documentary. Enjoy it today. Another example of when libertarianism has been tried, or has it? When we get back, we're going to talk to JD Tuccilli from Reason Magazine about why the presidential debates should be much harder than they actually are on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Take a look at this content. We appreciate all of our listeners helping us to grow the show. When you unlock those mini documentaries each day like that, it helps us to produce more content and to keep the Wake Up America show running strong. So thank you to all who donated today to help us to unlock that content. You got to see another example today of when real libertarianism has been tried. Yes, the Holy Roman Empire may not have been the best example of such, but James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, the founding fathers used that as an example of, well, what not to do mostly, but some examples of what to do when they framed the U.S. Constitution. And I think we could all learn a lot from my next guest's advice about what we should do in order to keep the republic that Benjamin Franklin said that we need to maintain. JD Tuccilli from Reason Magazine is joining us on the phone right now. We're running it old school, though. He says that the presidential debates should be a lot tougher than they are right now. Good morning, JD. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning to you. And yes, the debates should be a lot tougher than what they have planned for the gatherings on June 27th, September 10th.
JD, so what are we talking about here? Like, they should be a lot harder. Are you talking about like a physical fitness portion of it? Or are you on board with the drug testing aspect of the debates? What's your idea?
Well, yeah, I might be tempted to become an old school gladiatorial match, but what we really should see is something a little bit less kabuki theater, a little bit less constrained than what's on the agenda for the moment. As it is, the Biden campaign bypassed 3 debates scheduled by the Commission on Presidential Debates, all of which, all 3 of the commission's debates were scheduled for after the 2 that were agreed to by the Biden and Trump campaigns. And I think that's a big part of what's going on here. The Biden campaign set certain conditions. It means no live audience, want no third party or independent candidates, and they want the microphones cut off for whoever's turn it is not at the moment. So only, kindergarten rules. Oh, if it's your turn and you're holding the magic card, you're the one who gets to speak and no one else can interrupt you, which sounds all very polite, except that it doesn't really test these candidates against each other. It doesn't allow them to think on their feet and to respond, or even to show that they have no manners. I mean, it's not anything other than a choreographed meetup, and it's not what we deserve.
We've come a long way since the Lincoln-Douglas debates, when they would last for hours and they were big public spectacles. There wasn't a lot of entertainment back in the day, so lots of people would show up, crowds to watch the debates, and the crowds still show up whenever there's a debate like this. But I think that the Biden campaign has determined that having a crowd plays much more to Trump's advantage. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, his campaign stole Politico. Great. But Trump feeds off the crowd to give him life. And we watch the way. And we can understand that. I mean, Trump does kind of bask in the glow of his supporters, and it does energize. That also means that Biden doesn't do so well in front of a live audience when he's being interrupted, when his stream of thoughts is broken. And it's obviously because he's not doing so well. If you saw the Rose Garden speech he gave earlier this week, when he was talking about the hostages in Iran, and he referred to the presence of Hersh Goldberg Poland, got a lot of mention because Hersh Goldberg Poland, contrary to what the president said, was not present, is still actually being held by Hamas, back in Israel, and the president had to correct himself. But if you see the extended video It's a very sad portrayal of a very old man reading off a teleprompter, very clearly not understanding what he's reading and still stumbling over the words. This is why they don't want a live audience in the debates. And it's kind of a warning sign right there. It's why we need better debates. If you want to see that your presidential candidates, your leading candidates, up to the task of facing off against other minds that might mean them poorly, might mean their country poorly, that are still sharp in terms of their intellectual abilities, they need to demonstrate that against a domestic, a domestic opponent in front of an audience. I think that's what we should expect of these candidates. If, on the other hand, a candidate needs to be so coddled and protected from interruption because he's not or she's not up to the task of thinking on his feet on stage, we should be able to see that too. And these kind of kabuki theater events that are planned for now, for June 27th and September 10th, are so constrained that they're not going to really test the mettle of the candidates against each other.
JD, do you agree with some of the analysis of these debates that the fact that Joe Biden is the one who is calling for the debate is a sign that they know that they're weak when it comes to the polling?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's not unusual for this candidate. Historically, the candidate that's on top doesn't want to debate because if you're on top, why do anything that would ding your advantage, right? Why risk looking bad on stage? The candidate who's challenging is the one who wants to debate, and Biden has been consistently behind, not by a lot, but still, he was ahead back in 2020 by an average of 7% year. He's been consistently behind by about 1% for quite a while now. And that means that he is at least nominally the underdog. And he wants to do something that's going to eat into Trump's lead. He's got to do something. But I also suspect there's more to it behind these debates. The first debate is scheduled for late June. It's very early in the season. It's so early that Trump and Biden won't even officially be their party's nominees yet. They don't nominate until their respective conventions in July and August, which means that the June 27th debate would be testing not a nominated Democratic candidate, but a contender for the Democratic nomination. Well, and also the Republican contender, Donald Trump, for his nomination. If either one is really, really bad on stage, is not up to the job, there is still, at least technically, theoretically, time to swap them out for another nominee who could then go on and represent the party in the general election. I do suspect there's at least some people behind the scenes who have this in mind. I remember it was the Biden campaign that opposed these debates, who has this in mind in particular for Biden. If he really isn't up to the job, and it's hard to swap out a sitting president as a candidate of your party against his will, if he's really not up to the job, it does give them some time to consider somebody else.
JD, talk to us about the third party factor in this one, because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is saying that he has qualified for the debate according to the criteria. But I'm a grizzled old veteran at this point. My guess is that if he did qualify, they would just change the rules, or Biden and Trump would just say, no, we refuse to debate him, and he just wouldn't get in. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is a private party. The two parties, and the Commission of Presidential Debates, despite talking about being an independent neutral arbiter, was bipartisan, not nonpartisan. It was set up to push aside independent organizations like the League of Women Voters, because they would set up tough rules that made the candidates debate, and they would let in outside debates. John Anderson in 1980. The Commission on Presidential Debates only ever allowed in one outsider, and that was Ross Perot back in '92, and they never did it again after he did well on stage and then ended up pulling 19% of the vote in the general election. So if the Commission, which was this bipartisan organization, would let in an outsider, debates that were negotiated directly between the two Republican and Democratic campaigns are certainly not going to be open. In this year, you've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. polling at an average of just about 10%, which is a significant percentage, the kind of a percentage that could be boosted if he does well on stage against two very old candidates who frankly both have passed their prime. This could be the kind of thing that launched a Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or any other independent into relevancy, especially with polls showing the general public wants somebody else anybody else in the place of both Biden and Trump. About half of all voters said they want both of these guys replaced. So, of course, they're going to try to exclude third-party candidates.
So the Commission on Presidential Debates, I mean, it used to be the League of Women Voters, but were they an independent institution? I mean, did they make it fair? I mean, was that what the concern was, and that's why the takeover?
Yeah, I mean, the League of Women Voters backed up. The last time they had planned on sponsoring a debate was 1988. And behind the scenes, the Republican and Democratic campaigns agreed on a set of constraints on the planned debates. And the League of Women Voters said, no, we're not going to agree to that. In fact, if that's what you want to do, we're not going to sponsor the debates. And they backed out. And the Commission on Presidential Debates had already been set up at this point in anticipation of just this kind of event, so it could sponsor more major party friendly, gatherings between the two leading candidates. So the last time you had a real independent organization even trying to sponsor a debate was 1988, and the last time one was sponsored by an independent organization was 84 between the presidential candidates. The commission was set up to make a much more major party friendly environment. And now even that, I guess, was not sufficient to the needs of the major campaigns. So now we've got them working directly with each other and bypassing the commission.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show live, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to JD Tuccilli. He's a writer at Reason Magazine about why he thinks that the presidential debates should be harder on the candidates. They shouldn't be able to cut each other's mics. They should have to be in front of audiences because we should have a better culling process for our potential commander-in-chief. There is a lot of talk about potentially Biden being swapped out depending on his mental health. But I see something like that as an infinitesimally small percentage chance, JD, just because the president, it's almost less about the person themselves than it is around the people around him. I mean, there's always kind of a Praetorian guard that's protecting their sinecures and privileges from anyone attacking them. And a lot of people would lose their positions if Biden was not the candidate. Isn't that truly the case?
Absolutely is. I mean, keep in mind that the more deteriorated President Biden actually is, the more power without responsibility, the aides around him, because they're almost certainly the ones exercising the responsibilities of office, not Joe Biden himself. And they don't want to lose them. And they get to act as a president by committee in his place. If he's swapped out, and remember, he's the natural nominee, he's the incumbent president of the United States, he's nominally the head of the party. The second likely nominee, the most likely person to swap out would be the vice president, who's Kamala Harris, who, while in better shape intellectually than Joe Biden is wildly unpopular to the point where it's almost certain that she would lose. She would lose the election. And of course, all the people around Joe Biden would lose their positions. So it really is unlikely, with barring some major turn of events, that Joe Biden is going to be denied the nomination of the party. That scheduling of that first debate tells me that somebody at least wants to see if he can get up on stage and function before they hand him that nomination. There might still be some maneuvering behind the scenes. Most likely, if his heart is still beating at the convention, he's the guy who gets the nomination.
Now, what about our ideological brethren, the Libertarian Party? Where are they at this year? How are they looking?
Floating down the street in the middle of the flood, I think.
And why do you say that, JD?
Because there was a time there when it looked like, okay, it's getting some candidates' attention. It's got potential here to step up and either become a force itself or to swap out for a collapsing major party. But the Mises Caucus takeover, the subsequent infighting, the disaffiliation of some state chapters, I'm not even sure how many ballots there are on this point. I mean, I know that the Libertarian Party has been averaging money and membership, having problems attracting significant candidates for the kind of point now of the early aughts, when you're wondering who exactly they're going to find that no one's heard of is going to take the nomination. That doesn't mean they can't pull it out and salvage the organization. But the Libertarian Party is not going to be effective come November in this presidential election.
Why do you think this is? What do you think has caused this rot? Because we've heard complaints about the Libertarian Party over the years and their inability to garner enough attention to get into the debates. I mean, why do you think from 2016 until today the party has essentially imploded in such a spectacular manner?
It's no true Scotsman. I mean, the Libertarians, as small party as it was, started arguing on who was the true Libertarian. I also suspect there's some maneuvering by people who are sympathetic to Donald Trump to kind of sideline the party because it did prove to be a factor in 2016, and potentially even though at a smaller level in 2020. So the Mises Caucus take control, declare that they were the true libertarians, and that people of libertarian views who didn't share their exact set of paleo-libertarian or even paleo-conservative views, need not join the club, and then watch them hemorrhage and walk away and hemorrhage membership. But that kind of infighting, political parties, even when they're relatively ideologically pure, and there's a lot of them in a multi-party system, have to represent some kind of range of opinion. Otherwise, it's just a fight of purity. Who represents the true meaning of this party? And you end up with one guy in a room someplace. That's not going to work. And if you don't embrace a more wide definition of what it means to be a libertarian or any other political party, something that is true to the general idea of that party, but has a little breadth to it, then ultimately the project is going to fail because it's simply not going to draw enough support. It's not going to be able to pull votes when it matters. And you end up with, a political party not sure that it even is going to be on enough ballots to matter by November this year, or have a candidate whose name means anything to the voters.
Would you say at this point that it is possible that the party might be doing more harm than good just from a branding perspective? Is now the time perhaps to fold up the experiment and move on?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there are so many trolls now calling themselves representatives of the Libertarian Party, people who seem to think social skills are somehow a personal failing, people who seem to think that insulting others is a campaign tactic. The Libertarian Party is not serving a good purpose at this point. And if it were to fold up or be replaced by another generally pro-liberty project that had professional attitude towards attracting support, gaining candidates, and drawing membership, I think that would be a positive development. Clearly, it's not going to happen in this election cycle, but perhaps, if the LP collapses completely after this year, it can be replaced by something else that is pro-liberty, functional.
Here we are. JD Tuccilli, writer at Reason Magazine. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Your columns always appear at reason.com, but you send out a newsletter called The Rattler, which I love. It always reminds me about when you have a new piece that appears over at reason.com. And I believe you do some original writing over there on that newsletter as well. I love getting email newsletters. I know it's not for everybody, but I particularly like it because that's a great way for me to kind of while I'm checking through my inbox, find out who's writing what. So tell us how we can sign up for your newsletter, your email newsletter, and anything else that you might like to share with us before we let you go.
Oh, absolutely. If you click on any one of my columns, there is a sign-up box at the bottom of the column, and you just drop in your email address and you're subscribed. And in a week or two, really not your you can unsubscribe just as easily. My columns and subscribe and see if you like it.
JD, we always appreciate that you get up so early to join us here on the show. I know it's a lot earlier out there where you're at, out in the desert, and we're grateful that you're so generous with your time. Thank you very much, and keep up the good work. We always appreciate you. Thank you very much. That's JD Tuccilli. What did you guys think of JD's appearance on the Wake Up America show? Can we give him a round of applause? What say you? Man, when you got the internet problems going on and then you got 3 guests back to back and you're trying to plug all the stuff that you got going on in the show, I do appreciate all of you sticking through. I know we had some internet challenges this morning. Give yourselves a round of applause for being so patient. Thank you. Thank you for your generosity, too, and unlocking the bonus content. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Well, we got this is Wednesday, so a couple more days to go. Still more work week to go. Cecilia H., you're lovely. Andy Opperman, Frickety, Steffi for Liberty, Joni Rankin, Robbie Theraman, Frickety, Sign of Jonah, Ike giving a shits, Dad Bod Baboon, Blutreich, all joining us over at rumble.com. Thank you. Appreciate you very much. I know we've got people hanging out over on X. What's up to all my Xers this morning? I used to call you people Twitter. I appreciate all of our people joining us over live on x.com as well. 540 people watching us on x.com. What's up? That's a lot of people. If you've tuned into the show over on x.com, it doesn't have quite the same functionality as rumble.com, so the comments don't come in like they do, so it's harder for me to get to know you if you're at x.com. So here's what I'd like for you to do. Send me a text message and say, hey, Austin, I've been listening to the show over on x.com. Introduce yourself. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your feedback on the show. There's 543 of you. I mean, can I get like 5 people at minimum to send me a text to 573-319-1586? Tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you find the show? What do you think of the topics, the guests, constructive criticism? Always welcome. What do you like, not like? Fill me in. 573-319-1586. Again, that text line, 573-319-1586. Or you can just DM me over on X, not Twitter. Send me a DM. Tell me what you thought of the program this morning. I know we had some technical difficulties. Maybe today's not the best day to ask if it was your first time watching. But if you've been watching the show in the mornings over on x.com, weigh in. Send me a DM. Say, hey, what's up, Austin? Watch the show. Like this, didn't like this. Maybe some suggestions, guest ideas. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Love to learn more about the audience over on X. And I think we've even got a half a dozen people over on YouTube as well. Thank you. Remember, we're live Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a 2-hour extravaganza of liberty, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time, Mondays through Fridays. Don't forget, too, to exit through the grift shop. You know we like it. Get on over to apforlibertyshop.com today. 4th of July is coming. Memorial Day is coming up, so you guys want to go ahead and buy some patriotic merch, like our awesome Star Stripes and Storage backpack. Show up to the 4th of July party wearing this baby, and you won't believe your eyes. You're going to fall in love. They're going to fall in love that day with you over at apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com. We'll see you guys tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Bye, guys. Take a look at